Okay, I figured I'd use this as an excuse to outline a new feature available in gameplay recordings, and that is statistics. So we have the ability to see how well each player in any particular match performed against each other in a very accessible format. So what we have here is total scrap collected, current scrap, and current pilots. We also have what both players decided to build. In this, I'm actually going to be reviewing the first two games from Kingfurykiller and Lamper. These are both very skilled players. Lamper more on the direct fighting category, and I think King Fury is more of the strategic thinker. So now King Fury loses this game. I think he makes a lot of smart choices, but there are some things that really held him back from being able to really contest the middle of the map effectively. Because right at the start of this game, he decides to move his constructor to the middle of the map with two scavengers in tow and build a silo there. And the problem is these scavs spend a lot of time doing nothing when in reality they could have made like 2 round trips to collect the scrap in the south, and then if they were sent up to the silo, like that would have been a much more efficient move. Um, but otherwise, he does use his time efficiently. Otherwise, because he builds the factory, he actually builds the factory twice, and then bolts to the west side of the map to collect this scrap. So um, now, one thing that I do want to emphasize is that more scavengers does not mean more scrap. Um, like we can actually see that King Fury Killer builds 23 scavengers over the course of this game, and Lamper only builds 7. And yet, if we look at the charts here, we can see that the total scrap collected, in the total scrap collected, King Fury Killer is consistently lower than Lamper in this area. So, um, it just goes to show you that like more scavengers is not always the optimal move, especially on this map because it's kind of unique with its scrap setup because all of the scrap on the map is densely concentrated. So you really need to be using those silos effectively, and it only takes one scavenger to effectively collect from a silo. Um, Here's an example of one scav collecting scrap from a silo. There you go. It happens very quickly. You do not need multiple scavs to collect from this map from Grizzly Gulch right off the bat. Now, if we look at the 3 minute mark, let's compare what King Fury has versus what Lamper has. So King Fury has 4 offense units right here, okay, including the tank that he's driving. And Lamper, on the other hand, has a full army pretty much. He is ready to demolish his opponent. He's got turrets to lock down scrap, which he does very, very effectively in this game. And he's already collected from south over here, and he's starting to collect from here as well. So he has way more resources at his disposal, and it's like when King Fury tries to get greedy and procure this large pool of scrap here. This is 100 units of scrap in contention, but he's not going to get it because he doesn't have the forces to. He does not have the offense to overcome the defense. So now all of this scrap is pretty much Lamper's. There's no way that King Fury is going to be able to recover from that. I do feel that the excessive builds of scavengers did kind of like right at this point when he gets to 0 pilots, King Fury is in serious trouble because he is just kind of cleared out Lamper's main defensive line. Like he's basically got two. He's got a number of turrets here, but not a whole lot of offensives. But that doesn't matter because King Fury can't build anything, and it's pretty much game over from here. Like it's bad when you have to recycle your factory from all the way across the map in order to get more pilots. Uh, so that's another thing that I think Lamper does pretty intelligently here is that Lamper also recycles his factory in this game, but because the factory is right next to a silo, it takes half of the time to do this than it would otherwise. So that's actually, I don't think he intended to do that, but it's actually a really smart move on on sparse geyser maps to put a silo right next to your factory so that you can recycle the factory quickly if you absolutely need to. Now, the only commentary I have on these stats here is that Lamper could have crushed King Fury even harder, because we can actually see here that King Fury is generally more skilled at utilizing his resources compared to Lamper. We can actually see this in chart form, where like we see that this scrap is being spent, whereas with Lamper, like somewhere around the middle of the game, he's basically not spending his scrap. It's basically like a steady line. Having scrap in the bank is okay, but you don't want too much in the bank. Like you want to be spending that to continuously drive yourself to victory. And if that scrap is in the bank, it's not helping you win the game. So, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. So yeah, generally King Fury Killers tends to be more efficient when it comes to building things, especially like wall fighting. That's something that Lamper could work on. Let's look at Nitrogen. This was a map that Lamper should have won, but did not. And this kind of gives you a visual indicator as to why you cannot hesitate when your opponent is down for the count. So now King Fury does have kind of a clumsy opener here, but he generally is able to collect it like you would with a standard opener. Lamper decides to play passive on this game, and he goes for an early silo destruction, which works out well. Like this is a good move because now this scavenger is useless, and this is pretty much what this should have lost King Fury the game. So King Fury decides to go very, very aggressive, and park the factory there, and the problem is he has no pilots, so that factory is like super useless. It's basically just a decorative piece on the battlefield at this point, and he then has to struggle to try and destroy this factory because he probably thinks it's going to build a golem to destroy his offensives with, but Lamper has more than enough to contest this. Lamper seems to be really good at getting lots of offense quickly. So he's definitely not the kind of player that you want to rush. I certainly wouldn't. The interesting thing about this game, if we look at the stats, let's go over to the stats screen. Lamper only builds 4 scavengers here. And again, King Fury builds 22. But the issue is Lamper needs lots of scavengers at this point because he needs to clean the scrap off the field quickly. And we can see that there's all this scrap here. Like this is something that should have been heavily punished, but was not. So I think Lamper was trying to play defensively here. And we see that King Fury is still, he's still in good shape resource-wise, but look at what he has. He has nothing to work with. No offensives, just a constructor. He's not even in a tank. He's this is King Fury right here. So like at this point in the game, if Lamper had decided to just immediately go in and attack from the north, uh, King Fury would have been completely demolished. Um, but that's not what transpires. Actually, for whatever reason, uh, Lamper decides to hang back and collect resources, which is fine. Um, but he doesn't follow this up with any kind of punishment. Like all of these scavengers here, um, there's just a lot that Lamper could do to like cripple King Fury's resource gains. Now, I actually don't understand why King Fury does this, but it works really well into his favor for whatever reason. Lamper doesn't defend the this side of his recycler, and he pays for that because Kingfurykiller's tank basically just goes in and deletes it. This is a good example as to it should serve as a reminder to always put turrets on both sides of your recycler, so that the player has to deal with them. But Lamper is not able to destroy King Fury's tank in time to save his recycler. He just has units following up to get rid of it. Now, despite the fact that Lamper lost his recycler, he's still in a good position to win this game. He still has lots of offensives. He still has his constructor. There's still plenty of time to secure the map and the victory. So, but I think this attack kind of stuns him for a little bit too long. So now we have King Fury moving to the east part of the map, uncontested, and again, a lot of this stuff consists of scavs. Like King Fury has no offense units ready to defend those scavs. So, what Lamper should have done. There's two options that Lamper could have taken to win this game. One is to punish King Fury the moment he gave up his factory. Like if he had just attacked immediately, he just would have won the game. But he plays it safe. So if you wanted to play it safe, fine. Let your opponent breathe, but take all the scrap that they sacrifice to you. And then what Lamper really needed to do was either deny King Fury this scrap, just make sure that he can't recover or collect anything, or if you wanted to be really, really conservative about it, you could just immediately move to the east side of the map and make sure that he doesn't get any of this. That's the thing about this match, is that King Fury is able to come back because all of the scrap was left untouched. So this serves as a really good example as to how letting your opponent have too much time can actually cost you the game. Because King Fury basically makes a really nice comeback after this point. He secures a really good defensive position on this hill, and it's basically game over for Lamper at this point. Otherwise, these were a couple of really, really interesting games, and I really enjoyed watching them, and I hope to see more interesting games in the future. And if we take a look at the stats here, we can see that even this is what surprises me, is that even though Lamper only had 4 scavengers, he's consistently competing somehow with King Fury for half of the game. and then basically his scrap gains fall off pretty sharply after that point. But it just goes to show you that you don't always need more scavengers to get more resources. They certainly help, but there is a time and a place for them. And again, we see the consistency of the scrap usage here, where you know, like, this is something that I feel that Lamper needs to work on, because just because you have a lot of capacity for scrap doesn't mean that you want to hold on to it. You really, really want to be spending that scrap to be pushing you towards victory as much as possible. And that's kind of what this chart communicates. So, like, this large area of like him holding on to scrap tells me that Lamper wasn't spending their scrap, and it wasn't helping him win the game. But anyways, I hope you found this insightful, and I'm looking forward to collaborating and doing more of these match reviews. So yeah, have a good one.